Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Earth File. I'm Chimezie Obi Iwagu. Report reveals that Nigeria may become desert country by 2046 if we continue to cut down trees without replacement, and that the country's forest land will be reduced to grassland in the absence of intervention. Also, available statistics says the country lost about 36% of its primary forest between 1990 and 2005, which places Nigeria to second position among nations with the highest deforestation in the world. On this week's edition of the program, we will focus on greenhouse gas emission, as Nigeria accounts for about 18.9 billion cubic meters gas flaring per annum, which translates to greenhouse gas emissions of about 45 million tons of CO2 equivalent.
Flaring of gas contributes significantly to global emissions of greenhouse gases, with flaring emissions worldwide currently put at about 300 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. The Global Gas Flaring Reduction Public-Private Partnership was established to supplement and strengthen efforts made by governments and companies to reduce and eventually eliminate flaring. GGFR considers the Clean Development Mechanism (CDM) of the Kyoto Protocol (KP) to reduce greenhouse gas emissions (GHG) as an effective financial incentive for projects that reduce flaring and venting of associated gas. The CDM initiative permits companies with approved projects in developing countries that reduce emissions to sell the emissions reductions to a developed country with emissions target. The main goals of this mechanism are to assist countries in reaching their emission reduction targets and promote sustainable development in the developing countries. Carbon credit development for flare reduction projects is aimed at developing the capacity and preparing pilot gas flare reduction CDM projects in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. The GGFR is helping to build CDM capacity among project developers and national authorities. Nigeria ratified the Kyoto Protocol on the 10th of December 2004, and the protocol came into force for the country on the 10th of March 2005. Even before this time, the federal government of Nigeria has, over the years, encouraged activities towards meeting its climate change objectives. The Federal Ministry of Environment, as the focal point on climate change in the country, is the relevant authorities for CDM in Nigeria. The ministry is responsible for broader policy and at national levels. The government introduces another authority named the Presidential Implementation Committee on CDM as the entity to organize CDM activities in Nigeria. The PIC-CDM has been named the Designated National Authority as required by the UNFCCC and as defined in the Marrakech Accord. In this capacity, the PIC-CDM has complete responsibility for CDM activities, especially in areas where government interventions and activities are expected. The PIC-CDM, as the Nigerian Designated National Authority, is firmly in place now and is working hard to put all the CDM-related activities in place soon. Gas flaring in Nigeria amounts to about 18.9 billion cubic meters (BCM) per annum, which translates to greenhouse gas emissions of 45 million tons of CO2 equivalent. This level makes Nigeria one of the top countries in volume of gas flared worldwide. At current estimated market prices for emission reductions of around 5 to 15 euros per ton of CO2, this implies market values of emissions reductions of approximately 225 to 675 million euros per year. The past 20 years has seen virtually constant global flaring levels, despite efforts made in both the public and private sectors. Gas flaring in Nigeria has been reduced significantly in the last years on a percentage basis, but in absolute terms there's been virtually no reductions due to increasing oil production. Some experts meet in Abuja the nation's capital, to deliberate on the way forward and how the country can harness the opportunities available.
Political will you could refer to as a broad term, but who's in the driving seat of this political will? So if you have somebody who is passionate about environmental issues steering the political will, so to say, then obviously there will be enough commitment towards that. And I believe that's what you will find in Ogun State, because the current governor, my dear husband, Senator Ibikunle Amonsun, FCACON, is extremely passionate about environmental issues, and we do take a pragmatic approach towards turning back the dial on further environmental degradation and climate change issues. So yes, in Ogun State, I would like to say that there is enough political will to drive the green agenda.
The global direction for renewable energy is scalable, decentralized approach of grid. And if the world is going that way, I would suggest that the country should also go that way. It's the logical solution because the world is getting so decentralized. Everything is getting decentralized, the telephones, the communications. So why shouldn't we also adopt the decentralized approach to energy provisions?